I am Doomsvince, and this is day 87 of Spawn Year.
I think my instincts may have been dulled by the sheer number of convoluted stories that don't make any sense by the end or set up fascinating scenarios and never find a satisfying way to pay them off. On the first page of this issue, we're in Suture's head and we find out she is Gretchen. So the woman from issue 5 who was shot by a serial killer, raped by police, and then hacked up by another serial killer is the female serial killer going after all these lunatics. This being a detective story, at first I somewhat would have preferred discovering that along with Sam and Twitch, who by the end of this one aren't even close to figuring that out themselves. On the other hand, I get the distinct impression that Alan McElroy expects the reader to have caught on to it already, and I have to adjust my brain back into coherent story mode. Ah, coherent story mode. How I've missed you. I wondered, besides the freaky factor, if the story really even needed that first part when I read last issue, since the big premise of a serial killer that goes after other serial killers doesn't even come up until the second part. But now that I know who Suture is, of course we need that first part. We get to spend time with this happy woman who's about to get married, has everything she wants, and we get angry for her as all at once the uncanny corruption of this city swallows her whole. Again, this isn't just about serial killers, but about the law perpetuating serial killers. In my defense, there is some decent misdirection. Last issue, Sam and Twitch saw the plot where Gretchen was buried as a Jane Doe, as her fiance Wayne talks about having her body moved. Since no one is really on to Suture's identity yet, it is head-scratching this issue when Wayne blurts out, "Is Gretchen alive or dead?" I'm not sure what's changed for him between issues, unless the body isn't where it's supposed to be and we're not told about it. McElroy has created an incredibly sympathetic killer with a believable revenge motive, and unlike in most Spawn comics, he gives us sufficient time with her so we can experience her pain and tragedy along with her. We're along for the ride during her gradual transformation. This is a killer whose head I really want to be in. She used to be the victim, and now she's the Punisher. Well, not the Punisher, a Punisher. Suture does certainly seem to be a supernatural being, the more we find out about her. And I know I said last entry I liked that this story was about the evils people were capable of, and it didn't have to be about demons manipulating them. But even with a resurrected Gretchen, it's still that. She doesn't have a symbiote influencing her actions or Bulgy messing with her memories. Gretchen is changed because of what's been done to her in what she's lost. She's changed in the way a real person might change, if she were violated and stripped of everything that gave her life meaning. The supernatural part is simply a story device that allows her to come back for vengeance. It reminds me a lot of The Crow. We're told very little about the details of Gretchen's resurrection. Apparently she's given new life by the god Chango, I think, who's a part of a pantheon created by slaves long ago and buried deep within the white man's own privileged religious faith. This is all intentionally vague because, again, it's not what the story is really about. McElroy wants to bring Gretchen back from the dead and then move on. But the idea of a pantheon of gods existing simultaneously with the heaven and hell we already know about, created by the thoughts of men, isn't inconsistent with the overlap. When we learned about that, we found out there was a myriad of realities, and heaven and hell were just two dimensions. At the same time, this mythology is left so open-ended, it's difficult to tell if I meant to take it at face value. It might explain how Gretchen came back, or all this talk of the rituals of the Santeria, how the dead are treated with the same respect as the living and are considered to just be living on another equally valid plane of existence, might all be allegorical. Suture writes the message in blood on a pier, "That which survives." I guess she really knows her Star Trek episode titles. So did she somehow survive, or did she die and come back? While my faith in the competency of this storytelling is steadily rising, I can't be sure that's an answer we'll ever get. Happily, that doesn't take away from the fact that she's a character I'm invested in, rather than just another girl in an awesome costume. Though her costume is pretty freaking awesome. Most of the issue involves Sam and Twitch getting blocked at every turn in their investigation into Gretchen's death, as the police department tries to protect the cops who raped her, but they finally corner the rookie cop Osborne, who is forced by the others to help rape Gretchen. who tries to get Sam to put him out of his misery once he's caught. That's where they're left in the story right now. Suture finds and gruesomely slaughters the Rose, I guess she's been saving her own killers for last, and drops him right in front of a bunch of cops, voluntarily turning herself in. She just gets more interesting all the time. This story is challenging and unpredictable, with an energy and sense of urgency in Turner's art to match. I'd better keep my wits about me moving on. This story seems to actually deserve it. Signed, Captain Logan.